Hey YouTubers, this is a real world review of the Highlifter lift kit for the Kawasaki Mule Pro. This is the arched A-arm kit with the shock relocation brackets. The combination of these two allows you to run up to a 33-inch tire. I opted to go for a 32-inch tire. These tires are Tusk Terrabite 8-ply Radials. When you do this kit, the complete package that you should be looking for is the arched front and rear A-arms by Highlifter, the shock relocation brackets. You should get 1.5 inch thick wheel spacers to space the wheels out, and an EPI clutch rebuild kit so that you can help offset the higher gear ratio that will be induced by going with the taller tire. These particular A-arms will move the rear wheels back 1.5 inches and the front wheels forward 1.5 inches. It does make for a longer wheelbase, but that's really not relevant. By doing so, you can run your bigger tire. It's really the moving of the A-arms forward and aft that allows you the clearance for a bigger tire, and not so much the lift. The lift does increase your ground clearance quite considerably. I think the combination of the taller tire along with the A-arms gave it about 10 inches of lift. The total ground clearance right now is right at 20 inches. And my shocks are not adjusted tight. They're sitting just about 1 or 2 notches off of the lower rung. When I was searching around to try to find some real world experience on how the buggy performed with this lift, I found nothing, and that's why I'm doing the video. The buggy did suffer a little bit of top end speed. I mean, it still gets there, and if you use a GPS, your top end now ends up being somewhere around 50 miles an hour. Hardly ever hits the rev limiter now. I can leave on a flat road and just keep it floored and almost never hit the rev limiter. If you're just cruising around from like 0 miles an hour to that 25 range, it's still very peppy. It doesn't seem to have lost any get up and go. It's once you start topping 30 miles an hour and heading towards 45, which is where it's governed at, it's a longer road to get there, which is fine. I think everyone who bought a Kawasaki Mule Pro bought it for its ability to work. It's a work machine. That's what I use it for. This buggy had 2,150 miles on it before I ever did this lift kit. I've had it for 4 years. It's been a great machine. They're quite capable just the way they are. But if you want to do some trail riding with them, you'll find that ground clearance becomes an issue. And that's because of their longer wheelbase and the fact that they only have about 10, I think, maybe 11 inches of ground clearance from the factory. They're still very capable. But if you want to eliminate that, not have ground clearance be a problem, your only two options are to buy a different buggy or try to modify the one you got. It was cheaper to modify this one. After having had it on the trails, I can tell you it's quite impressive. It did very well. However, if I was in the market to buy something to take out on the trails, it wouldn't be a Kawasaki Mule Pro. Doing this modification really, I mean, it's a good idea if you already have a Mule Pro and you want it to be more capable. But if you're in the market for a machine to go do trail riding, then you should just buy that machine. That's my buddy Mike. His Can-Am Defender 1000. That thing was very impressive. It's stock. It did everything my buggy did, and actually climbed a hill that I did not climb in my buggy. So the Can-Am is quite an impressive machine, and this review is not about the Can-Am, but it's important, I think, to note, since it is in the video, that it's a very robust machine, very powerful, and I would kind of give the nod to it. If I was in the market to buy something today to use around and work with, I probably would get the Can-Am. It's got tons more power, runs 65 miles an hour. It'll actually spin the tires on pavement, and went everywhere my buggy did off-road. The buggy was a little stiffer after doing the lift kit. I would imagine the combination of a radial tire along with pushing the shocks out to a more upright position add to that stiffness. You can see a little articulation there. Now, these were very deep ruts. I never bottomed out on anything on any of these trails. That ground clearance is just crazy and quite impressive. I will say that through the course of the day, the front end of the buggy developed a creaky sound. I never did quite figure it out. I was here to ride the trails and get some video footage, and I did get down and try to understand where this noise was coming from. It was not coming from the tie rods. It appeared to me to be coming from the steering rack, which, as you can imagine, putting these bigger tires on and then taking it out and doing trails like this really did stress that rack. I didn't spend a lot of time worrying about it because I didn't really care. I figured that I would address it once I got it back to the shop. So I just kept riding and it just kept creaking. I never did figure out what it was. It's interesting that whenever I got back to the shop, unloaded the buggy, it wasn't creaking anymore. It's almost like after things got hot and, you know, had a lot of abuse put on them and friction and, you know, I don't know, it's like when it cooled off, it just kind of quit doing it. And I can't get it to reproduce, so I don't know what it was. I do know that it did not seem to matter whether it was in four-wheel drive or not, so that left me still suspecting it was the steering rack. But I still today have no idea. And that is my buddy Mike coming down the hill in his Can-Am, which has, I think it was 12 inches of ground clearance. It's a longer wheelbase. It has 28-inch tires. It's all stock. It's the Can-Am Defender, what do they call it, H10? I don't even know what, HD10. They're 1000 series engine. So I'll tell you, if you're thinking about doing this kit, the lift kit instructions, you know, they're cutting corners where they can. So you just get a kit with no bushings. The instructions tell you to remove your old bushings from your A-arms and reinstall them in the new A-arms. I mean, what a pain in the butt, and you don't even know if you're going to successfully do it without damaging a bushing. They're pressed in. So I just got new bushings and put new bushings in the new A-arms. That's something to consider. I do like the clutch. It seems to engage a little faster. It's I tell you where I really notice it is whenever I'm spraying. You know, I have an 11-foot boom sprayer in the hitch there, and you know, I want to spray. I typically try to stay just over 1 mile an hour, which means I'm spraying at 2 miles an hour. With the stock clutch setup and the way the buggy was stock, I was always hunting. I was always working on throttle control to try to keep in that sweet spot. It seems to be more steady and stable now with these tires and that clutch setup. So I like it. I like the way it is. I think this setup, if it's a work machine and you're using it for work around the farm or whatever, I mean, at those lower speeds, taking off, going, running up to 20 miles an hour and all those speeds in between, there's no negative hit to performance there. I think it's great. In fact, it may be better. It seems to be more responsive and more easily controlled in a, you know, when you're demanding that it, you know, you want to keep it doing spraying or some lower speed or whatever. It does that well. So anyway, that's about all I got to say. Would I do it again? Probably would. Oh, I want to mention that the wheels are MSA Clutch 33s. The wheels that I went with are 14-inch wheels, 7 inches wide, and the tires are 32 by 10 by 14. Okay, so would I do it again? Well, I would. I like the buggy the way it is. If I never take it on a trail again, there's absolutely no drawback, in my opinion, to having it set up this way as a work machine. One drawback might be that the bed is taller and it's harder to put stuff in and out. I'm 6 foot tall. If you're shorter than that, you might not want to do it. But I don't know, if I really like start focusing more on going and driving trails and having fun out there, I might consider getting rid of it, or I don't know. I might look at what the marketplace has to offer for a trail buggy. The Polaris General, the Can-Am Maverick, you know, something like that. You know, this modified Mule, it still doesn't put it in the category of either of those machines. It just makes it more capable as a mule. That's it. So, but I don't have no regrets about doing this lift. I think it looks great and it drives great. It still works. It didn't take a negative hit in the working category. So yeah, I would do it again.